Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1666B, and today's date is September 17th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Authentication Required, Attempts to Block. This is not a game. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we need to remember something really important here. When Q comes out and tells us certain things, this is not, oh, here's Q sitting in front of a crystal ball, looking into the future, knowing the exact future. What they have is military intelligence. They have a plan. But again, the other side is unpredictable. Yes, they can prepare for what they're going to do. They might have to take 2 steps back to go 3 steps forward, but there's always a risk of the plan changing a little bit. And we're starting to see that the plan is going to shift just a little bit. And it looks like Q and Trump, they're really on the same page. And we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. But I want to go into Cory Booker for a sec here. Judicial Watch, they filed an ethics complaint against New Jersey Democrat Senator Cory Booker. Remember, Booker violated the rules of the U.S. Senate during confirmation hearing of Brett Kavanaugh, and he knew that he would have to face consequences. And of course, what he presented was absolutely ridiculous. It was nothing. It was a nothing burger. And it looks like Judicial Watch right now is filing the ethics complaint against him, and he's going to have to pay for his ridiculousness. Now, we're going to get into Kavanaugh in just a minute, but I want to talk about Nellie Ohr. Now, she's going to be testifying before Congress this week, and this is going to be about her work with Fusion GPS and with the dossier and things like that. So she's probably going to spill the beans, and we know that Bruce Ohr is married to Nellie Ohr, and we know that Bruce Ohr is not going to allow his wife to take the fall. And we need to go back to post 2158, September 11th from Q. It says, panic in D.C. Bruce Ohr, in an effort to save Nellie Ohr, will be testifying against Rosenstein, Yates, Lynch, and Comey. So we can see how this is completely taking shape and how things are going as planned. Now let's get into Kavanaugh, because we can see at the last minute Feinstein pulled out the sexual assault card. Has Kavanaugh now in the spotlight with this individual, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. This is a California researcher who accused the Supreme Court nominee of sexual assault. She works at a college. She's a psychologist. She's a professor. And basically, what they want to do is they want to delay the vote for Kavanaugh. And some of the headlines are, she must be heard. We should delay Kavanaugh confirmation vote. Demand suspension of Kavanaugh confirmation until serious and credible allegations are brought out into the open. And we need to go back a couple of steps here and figure out what is going on. Now, we know that this week, the 20th, we had the testing of the presidential alert system. We know that Kavanaugh was going to be voted on the 20th. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. So keep those dates in mind. And we'll be talking about that in just a minute. But first, let's look at who this individual is. All of a sudden, this person just appeared. And they have someone who's saying that he sexually assaulted her during high school. So before we get to that, we have to understand where this person is coming from. Well, first of all, Judge Brett Kavanaugh's mother, a state court judge in Maryland, well, she was involved in the foreclosure of a property owned by the parents of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, the California researcher who is accusing the Supreme Court nominee. Maryland court records show that the judge, Martha Kavanaugh, issued several rulings in action initiated in 1996 by the United Mortgage and Loan Investment Corp. To foreclose on a Potomac, Maryland property owned by Ralph and Paula Blasey, Ford's parents. The foreclosure case took place some 15 years after the events Ford alleges with Brett. The case was adjudicated in the Montgomery County Circuit Court Though Martha Kavanaugh did not issue an order permitting seizure of the property, rather it appears that Blassi's reached a settlement with their bank as Kavanaugh granted uncontested motions brought by UMLIC to dismiss the case. And we do have the court records here. So let's move on here and see what else Christine Blasey Ford is up to. She also signed a letter fighting Trump's zero-tolerance policy at the U.S.-Mexico border. The American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, an open borders advocacy organization. A letter was written and sent to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Christian Nielsen and Attorney General Jeff Sessions in June. Christine Blasey Ford, a psychology professor, signed the ACLU letter as Christine Blasey, Ph.D., psychologist, signing off on statements that accused Trump of using southern border enforcement to traumatize children and claimed the zero-tolerance policy was violating fundamental human rights. So let's go a little bit further and go back in time here. In the early 1980s, she attended Holton Arms School, an all-girls school in Maryland, located 7 miles away from the Georgetown Preparatory School where Brett Kavanaugh was a student. Ford's allegations against Kavanaugh stem from the summer of 1982 when she was 15 and he was 17. Ford told the Washington Post that she didn't tell anyone about the Kavanaugh incident in detail until 2012 when she was in couples therapy with her husband. She turned over the therapist's notes from the time to the Washington Post, which it used in its story the other day. Now, the notes don't name Kavanaugh, and they say 4 boys were involved, not 2. Ford said this was the therapist's error. So the therapist who was taking notes at the time made an error. She remembers it very clearly, or does she? Or is she just turning it around now because it's not fitting the story? She said there were 4 boys at the party, she said, but only 2 in the room. When Kavanaugh's name made President Trump's short list of the Supreme Court nominees in July, Ford sent a letter to her congresswoman, Anna Eshoo. Eshoo sent the letter to Senator Dianne Feinstein, who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and she would be questioning Kavanaugh at his confirmation hearing. We also hear there was a lie detector test taken by a former FBI agent. They don't specifically say that this was taken and Kavanaugh was the person. They're saying that the events are true. Now, I'm not questioning this. I do believe the events are true. And when you take a lie detector test and you believe that these are true, which they most likely probably are, that something happened to her, but I don't think Kavanaugh was involved in this. And we can see that she never even mentioned Kavanaugh in the notes. And the person that was with Kavanaugh is denying that this even happened. Now, what we see happening here is that the White House is saying, you know something? Everyone should testify now. Everyone should be allowed to testify and tell their side of the story. Because once you start doing this, you can break down what's real and what is not real. Kavanaugh is saying he never even attended a party at this point in time. And we can see that there's problems and there's kind of holes in these stories. Some things don't make sense, especially the notes from the therapist and what she is saying. I do believe something happened, but I don't think it had to do with Kavanaugh. I think they're using this. And why are they using this? To delay. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. Now, out in Syria, we can see that Putin and Erdogan, they agreed to establish a demilitarized zone in Idlib after their short meeting in the Russian port city of Sochi. Both leaders agree that they will have a demilitarized zone that separates the Syrian government forces and rebels inside of Idlib. That's interesting. They did not specify the exact location of this DMZ. And this newly agreed upon demilitarized zone in Idlib will be implemented by October 15th. Now, Putin stated that the demilitarized zone area will be between 15 and 20 kilometers deep. He said once this demilitarized zone is created, Turkey and Russia will restore the transit routes between the Aleppo, Idlib, and Latakia provinces. So they're already separating forces within this area. Would it be to make it easier to hit the other side and have the ability to control the area? It seems like that's what they're moving towards. Now, I want to go back over some of the Q posts because some more information has come out. And I'm going to go back to post 2174 where Q put up, and this is from September 15th, Q put up a Twitter link, and basically this is a picture of Flynn with two individuals, and this is Education for Libs. It says, "Together we are strong, together we win." And what's very interesting about this is that there is no coincidence that Q posted a picture of @Education for Libs posing with General Flynn, trying to get this information out that, listen, things are not what they seem. Look into the information and understand it. Post 2176, and this is a link to Executive Order 13526, Section 1.7, Classification, Prohibitions, and Limitations. A, in no case shall information be classified, continue to be maintained as classified, or fail to be declassified in order to conceal violations of law, inefficiency, or administrative error. Number 2, prevent embarrassment to a person, organization, or agency. Number 3, restrain competition. Or number 4, prevent or delay the release of information that does not require protection in the interests of national security. Now, this is very interesting because Obama in 2009 signed this into law. And Trump is going to use Obama's law against him. I mean, think about that for a second. Post 2178, this was the speech with Flynn. And what's very interesting about this is that Flynn, after the speech, signed some books, The Field of Fight. And in the book, Flynn wrote, "Where we go one, we go all." Now, this is very interesting. Liberty and Justice for All said the following in a tweet. "I debated whether to post this, but after seeing some of the books @General Flynn signed last night, I don't think he'd mind. I think he knew I want to post this. It's been a long year, but we are finally about to see justice take place. Where we go one, we go all. #QAnon. Thankful for this patriot." Now, this looks like this is from General Flynn responding, and it says, "Where we go one, we go all. Thumbs up, American flag," confirming that Flynn is on board with all of this. Post 2180. And this is everything from post 2179. And down below, it's talking about the show on Fox with Maria Bartiromo. This is Trump tweeting out, "Just watch Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. This show is mandatory. Watching if you want to understand the massive government corruption and the Russian hoax. It will be rebroadcast this evening at 6 p.m. a must see." Now, during this whole thing at marker 11 minutes and 12 seconds, Maria refers to all the deep state actors involved as the cabal.
Presidential election and all of this misconduct, not just from this cabal of people at the top of the FBI and the DOJ, but also perhaps the CIA.
And again, another Q confirmation. And what we've been noticing is that the word deep state and cabal has been used more and more as they're doing these type of shows where they're referring to these individuals as the deep state and the cabal. This is very interesting. Post 2182, this is the 9/11 digits, and it says Q interesting, and Q then wrote back for them. Now, if we look at the number above where Anonymous put 9/11 digits Q interesting, the number is 3045-911. That is the post number. And was this timed purposely? Because if it is, the numbers are, President 45, 9/11, and Q is suggesting this was intentional. Post 2186, and this is September 16th, test Thursday by Department of Defense to confirm free flow of direct comms, POTUS special authentication requirement, think the football, NSA monitoring for any attempts to disrupt and or term access, Central Command Q. Now, we talked about the nuclear football, and there's a definite chain of command on how this has to proceed. But what's very interesting about all of this, the football gives POTUS the ability to launch nukes no matter where he is in the world. The control of the emergency alert system gives POTUS the ability to address the citizens no matter where he is in the world. So it's a given that POTUS most likely is not going to be around when the big takedown happens. For the sake of his safety, he'll most likely be elsewhere, which means he can use this to send out the warning message if need be. So when we look at what Q is trying to say and comparing it to the football, and many people have different interpretations of this, we're saying that, we have the football, we're in the offensive, we know exactly what's going on. But I think it's the football showing that this device can be used anywhere in the world. It can be carried along with him. Now let's move on to post 2187. This is a new one coming in September 17th, which is today. And Q put up a link from whitehouse.gov, statement press secretary, and under it says September-17-. Do you believe in coincidences? Q. We go back to post 2172. Q said September-17-. A week to remember. Now, what is this link that Q just gave us? Well, it's the statement from the press secretary. At the request of a number of committees of Congress, and for the reasons of transparency, the President has directed the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice, including the FBI, to provide for the immediate declassification of the following materials. 1. Pages 10 through 12 and 17 through 34 of the June 2017 application to the FISA court in the matter of Carter W. Page. 2. All FBI reports of interviews with Bruce G. Ohr prepared in connection with Russia investigation. And 3. All FBI reports of interviews prepared in connection with all Carter Page FISA applications. In addition, President Donald J. Trump has directed the Department of Justice, including the FBI, to publicly release all text messages relating to the Russia investigation without redaction of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Ohr. Let's look at post 2188. Q put up a link, which is a Twitter feed, and this is from Lisa Mae Crowley. Listening to the Larry O'Connor show on WMAL, John Solomon confirms Lisa Page and Bruce Ohr have been cooperating witnesses. We, of course, already knew this. Future proves past. Q has already told us this. Post 2189. Attention on deck. Memes at the ready. Lock on target. Fire at will. Q is telling us to push out these memes. It is now time. They are dropping the carpet bombs. Post 2190, September 17th. Anonymous puts up Trump with his fist up. Q, you were right all along. Emmys, red carpet. Where we go one, we go all. Under it, it says Annans picked up the carpet bombs. For you and you alone. Fight, fight, fight. Q. So it is happening, and they already started the carpet bombs, and they're being dropped right now. Now, something very interesting, we know that Trump was out there saying, listen, if there's going to be delay, there's going to be a delay with Kavanaugh. We want everyone to testify all at once about what has happened here. We want the public to know the truth. We know FEMA has pushed back the testing of this new alert system to October 3rd. So the test has been pushed back, and Trump is already laying the groundwork that there might be a delay in the vote for Kavanaugh to October 3rd. And this is when the test is going to be. So will this all happen at once? Maybe. Let's move on to post 2191. Anonymous put up Emmy Awards, red carpet events, highlighted carpet. Q put, you are learning. We will not fail you. Q. So it looks like this is all happening. They expected there might be something up with Kavanaugh. It looks like the FEMA drill is being pushed back to October 3rd. This was the backup date. And we'll have to see how it all plays out with Kavanaugh. Now, something very interesting about all of this is that the times are exactly the same, 2:18. They did not change the time of the test. Now, what's so interesting about this time is that 33 minutes later, Kavanaugh was supposed to be have that confirmation vote. Now the alert system test is now scheduled for October 3rd. Does this mean they might schedule Kavanaugh to be confirmed on October 3rd, maybe 33 minutes from the time the test is going to before the test is going to take place? So, as you're probably aware by now, 33 is one of those numbers beloved by the groups like the Freemasons, much like Q's 23 references Skull and Bones. This might be another dig at the cabal, and we can see that the carpet bombs have already started. This is just the beginning. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.